My name is Ryan Muirhead. I'm a photographer and I love film.
My name is Tanja Lippert and I'm a photographer and I love shooting film.
I'm Tia. I'm a photographer and a stylist and I absolutely love film.
Over the next 16 weeks, we are going to take you on a journey. We are going to eat, breathe, and sleep film photography.
All about film. The beginning, the middle, the end, there is no end. Trust you me.
We're going to be actually learning a lot from other people who know about film.
Some of my very favorite film photographers in the entire world are going to be on this show.
You're going to love it. You're going to be inspired.
Some of you might know that TNT like to get a little bit dorky sometimes.
We will be participating in craziness, roughhousery.
There is going to be a little dork energy thrown into these episodes.
Tomfoolery, general silliness. This is our confession booth. This is where we're going to tell you the things you wouldn't have otherwise seen. This is where
Every episode will give you a little taste of something new and something inspiring and something beautiful.
We're on TV! Not TV. We're on the computer! The YouTubes.
Whether you shoot film, whether you shoot digital, no matter what it is, we just want you to pick up that camera and get out there and live a vibrant, amazing life.
I'm not so much scared of this as I am of this.
Ooh, us? Oh, Ryan. We're lovers, not fighters.
Tia has an amazing voice. Tanya's so loving, and I can lift 40 pounds directly over my head.
Prove it.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
Ryan's gonna be our muse for this next 16 weeks.
Yeah.
He's gonna be our little muse. We get to
We're
dress him
inspired
up.
by his beauty and his
his
versatility.
his
Versatility.
Shine away.
Whether you like it or not, we're coming for you.
Here it goes. Film show. 3, 2, 1.
Day one,
All right, here we are. Episode 1, History of Photography.
the first day that someone figured out how to capture a moment in time.
It's so important to know the history of photography because in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from.
It boggles my mind, like where the heck did cameras come from?
The history of photography is fascinating. All the different processes they came up with of how to scientifically render exactly what they were looking at, and how the processes influenced each other, and how we got to where we are today. A great friend of mine, Travis Lovell, is here to teach us all about that. He's a professor at Utah Valley University, and he's a close personal friend of mine. I've taken numerous classes from Travis, and he really knows his stuff. Plus, he's brought some examples of these processes for us to get to see hands-on, so I'm really excited for that.
I'm really excited to find out exactly how this all came down.
The history of photography.
Travis, thanks so much for joining us today on the show. Tell me a little bit about your work, what you like shooting.
Probably landscape. I do a lot with large format cameras, traditional black and white film, and simple, almost form-driven landscapes more often than not.
So you say you work primarily with large format cameras. Why the attraction to that format?
I think the attraction, honestly, is how slow I have to be. A busy day shooting 4x5 is, 24 pictures is a fairly full day when I'm out shooting in landscape because I'm moving in between locations. And for me, I think life is so superficial as it is. So I think we get to know people and places so superficially. With a 4x5 camera, I have to slow down so much, explore, look, try to think about what I'm doing a lot more. And so that process, that mindset, I feel like I'm delving into my subject a lot more than when I'm digital. I just start taking pictures and I kind of get lost in what's going on.
Now, did you learn to shoot on film or did you find film later?
No, I learned to shoot on film. Digital wasn't really an option when I first discovered photography.
When was that?
My first experience in photography would have been, I was a student at Utah Valley State College at that point in time. Got into a photography class, absolutely loved it. So it was 35 millimeter, dark room, black and white, all of that. And so the next semester I signed right up for another photo class. And so when I see these giants of photography, to be able to learn from them how they were able to see the world, I was able to, like I've been seeking to try to take what they learned and not only embed it into my own photography, but also use it to help students unlock their visual language through the medium of photography. In many ways, photography became a way of learning to see the world, learning to look at it in a different way than I ever had before.
Travis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, you've been a professor for a little while.
Yes.
So when we first met, I felt like my initial reaction was, geez, he doesn't fit the professor type at all. So Tia, we
Yeah.
decided to,
We need to professor
you needed a little
him
bit of
out.
styling.
I've been told that my entire life.
We need to professor him.
Yeah, a little more official, Travis.
more
A little
official.
more official.
Definitely. I think he needs a blazer. Every,
blazer?
yeah. Blazer is the signature professor.
This is the wrong tie. I should have a bow tie or something.
You should, but this is the modern day professor.
Yeah,
Modern?
yes.
You really need to look smart though. Here's the here. This will really make you look smart.
Oh,
There
wow.
you go, Travis.
Awesome. Okay,
Now we feel more like
you're a professor.
we're ready to hear what you got to say.
Let's talk a little bit about history. I think today we take it so for granted that it's so easy to show someone a literal representation of what's there, just a photograph. I mean, we have our cameras, we have our cell phones. You can capture exactly what's in front of you. But for thousands of years, it was just up to artist renditions, you know? And even very skilled painters, you just still ended up with an impression of what you saw. I mean, like, can you imagine, like, seeing a photo of the Mona Lisa model? Like,
Wow.
it's just such a dramatic shift in perception. And I'm curious, like, where did it all start? Like, where did the thought of being able to capture exactly what you were seeing come from?
Well, photography is interesting that way because you can't attribute photography really to one person. Photography has been an evolution for a long time as it's come through in many, many different iterations throughout its relatively short life. So going back to the very simplest form of what led to photography would basically be an early version of what we had termed now as the camera obscura, which in essence is a very, very simple thing. It's basically a hole, very, very small little pinhole in an otherwise darkened room. Now, it doesn't go back to like the 5th century when people started making, or at least that's when we start getting recorded history of when they made these observations. Aristotle made an observation of a solar eclipse as the sun was coming through overlapping leaves that were creating a little pinhole, and he was able to see a solar eclipse there on the ground underneath. Da Vinci, actually in some of his writings, talks about the camera obscura, which as it progressed, we start putting lenses on them. There's a little ground glass that starts showing up with them. But the quote is basically, "Oh mighty universe, how something so small can like be contained in a small box like this." So somebody as amazing as Da Vinci is just enthralled that this small little, very, very simplistic device could capture the whole world inside of it.
Wow.
So as amazed as I am by Da Vinci and what he did, he was amazed by the camera.
What were the first inventions, or what was the process of someone taking the physics of what was happening with the light and actually capturing it into something permanent?
The first inventors, there's 3 names we generally talk about the most. The first one that comes into play, his name is Joseph Nicephore Niepce, French, and I probably butchered the pronunciation. But he started exploring. What he was trying to do was figure out a cheap, easy way to reproduce etchings. So he was thinking at it from a printmaking perspective. And so he started exploring and came up with a few processes. He is the one that's noted for making the first permanent photographic image. It was a 8-hour picture of his courtyard in La Grasse. you can actually see the shadows on both sides of the courtyard, so it took the duration of the day. He met up with a guy named Louis Daguerre. Now Daguerre worked in Paris. He had this theater called the Diorama. Daguerre and Niepce both used the same lens maker, basically. So that's how they found out about each other. And they started working together. Daguerre saw great money-making potential in the process.
Senior portraits?
Senior portraits, high school pictures, dance pictures. He knew there was a market there. So they started working together. Now, unfortunately, Niepce died before the process that really worked came out. He ended up working with Niepce's son, Isidore, but the big breakthrough in the process comes directly from Daguerre. And what that was, this is an interesting process. It's basically a highly polished silver plate, and then they put it in a box with vaporized iodine, which makes silver iodide. The real breakthrough for him is when, after he exposed the plate, because the first process, they would try to expose it until the image came all the way out. But this one, after they exposed it, he would take the plate and put it over mercury vapors. The mercury vapors would attach to the areas that have been exposed and could basically create this white amalgam. And so with this picture, it's a very weird process because you have to be just the right angle for it to work. Because in some areas, some angles it's a negative, some angles it's a positive. Some people still consider this to be the sharpest process ever invented.
Yeah, it
Just
does
just
look
because
really,
of the nature
really
of the
I just
plate.
think it's
sharp.
gorgeous.
I think, like, to me,
It is. It's like a
this-
hologram. almost.
what it reminds me of is the Harry Potter pictures, the way
Yeah.
they're represented.
Yeah.
You almost expect them to start moving
Yeah.
around in the
Yeah.
frame. The process is one of a kind. It's not reproducible. It's super, super sharp, but you can't, the only way you can make a reproduction is to take a photograph of the daguerreotype.
So you're saying that this one that we're holding right now is the actual one that was made whenever this picture
This
was
is basically
taken?
the film that was in the camera.
That's so
So
amazing.
this piece of metal saw this family, but it's such a personal process. It's the opposite of like billboards and magazines, everything else. Only one person can look at this image at a time,
Right.
just because of the physical nature.
True.
And I love like the beautiful little case that comes in.
So was
Oh,
Daguerre
wow.
right? Was it very financially successful?
Yeah, it was tremendously financially successful for him because what he did, and this is where photography really takes off, is he makes an arrangement with Count Arago, and they give the process to the French government. And then the French government gives it as a gesture of goodwill to the world, except for England, because they hate England. And so there was licensing fees for England, but everybody else in the world got it for free. But then Daguerre and Isidore got a pension for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
Basically, here's your annual check, thank you. So for him, it was brilliantly successful. Now the other process, there's actually a nice competing England-France thing going on at the same time. We have William Henry Fox Talbot. He goes on a honeymoon to Lake Como with his wife. And he takes the camera Lucida and tries to make vacation pictures. I guess that's where the tradition comes from. They look really, really bad, and it frustrated him. And so he went home, and based on these other experiments that he's heard about with light-sensitive materials, he starts exploring. And so he starts to experiment, and he figures out a process. He called it the photogenic drawing. He actually used paper, and whereas the daguerreotype was a metal process, this one was a one of a kind. Talbot's was actually created a negative. And so then he could use it again and make a positive from the negative, is basically the process. It was the daguerreotype being announced that basically, they called it daguerreotype mania, where it just basically photography just exploded throughout the world. It was demonstrated in August of 1839. It arrived in America in September. So like it was that quick of a
Yeah,
Like
spread
the
like
Beatles.
wildfire.
overnight, like the Beatles, except it came from Paris, France instead of London. Later on, he kept exploring. A year later, 1840, he starts experimenting, and he takes a photograph, and nothing showed up. Because normally there's two different types of process. They call them either DOP or POP. So it's developing out process or printing out process. So a printing out process, you expose it until the picture just naturally starts to show up. The developing out process, like those that have worked in the darkroom, you have a blank piece of paper was what it looks like, but as soon as you put it in developer, the image starts to appear.
So much, much quicker.
Yeah. So what Talbot did is he started to, he's like, well, wasted that paper, so he decides to recode it. As he puts the chemicals on it, all of a sudden it reacts and a picture comes out. And he took that process and called it the calotype. So he put a very, very restrictive patent on it. You had to pay to learn the process, and then you had to pay him for every photograph you took using the process.
Oh my gosh, smart
So
guy.
It was very, well, yes and no, because nobody really wanted to use it because the daguerreotype was free. But it also had a downfall, because you're actually printing through the fibers of the paper. It had a very textural look to it. It wasn't nearly as sharp as the daguerreotype. So both had advantages. We've got two really cool but very different processes. One is one of a kind, non-reproducible, but super, super sharp. Okay, the other is reproducible, but
Kind of grainy-ish, almost.
yeah, very textural,
Textures.
which some people loved. Some people like, let's figure something else out.
Yeah.
The other thing weird about this one, the daguerreotype process, is this is what's in the camera. And that's basically how all film works. You put it in the camera, and the nature of a lens is when light comes through a lens, it goes upside down and backwards, which with negative film is very easy to fix. Upside down, you just turn it upside down. So this was actually in the camera like this. And then normally with film, we just turn it around, and that corrects the backwards. So when you see a daguerreotype, the majority of the time, they're all backwards.
Oh,
Which
so,
bothered
so Daddy
people.
would have been sitting on the other side.
exactly.
Okay, so everything's flipped.
So they did figure out ways of reversing or using a mirror in the photographic process to correct it, but most daguerreotypes are backwards. Instead of paper as the negative, is there a way to use glass? It's clear, it's sharp. And so it was the invention of collodian, which is gun cotton and ether, which makes this very sticky, gooey substance that they thought would make a great binder to glass. And then they then sensitize it with silver, and then you put it in the camera, take it.
So
take
the
picture.
collodian is referring to the agent that they use to attach the light-sensitive material to the glass plate.
It's the binding agent, yes. The advantages were that it was sharp, it was reproducible, but it also had to be wet. So you had to coat the plate, expose the plate, and develop the plate while the plate is still wet. If it dries at any point, all sensitivity is gone and your pictures
Toast.
disappears. If you want to do anything on location, you have to have a darkroom. You know, you don't go out and buy a 24 exposure roll of film. You go out and buy 24 glass negatives if you want to take 24 pictures. During this period too, everything is contact print. You cannot enlarge an image. So if you wanted an 8x10, you had to use an 8x10 glass plate. If you wanted a 20x24, you needed a 20x24 camera so that you could lay the glass right on the photosensitive paper to get your photograph. You go back to the Civil War with Matthew Brady, Alexander Gardner, Timothy Sullivan that photographed the Civil War. They had to have all the darkroom stuff with them as they're following the war as it happens. After the war's over, we start to move westward, and so we have like William Henry Jackson that goes into Yellowstone. You have Carlton Watkins that goes into Yosemite. You have Timothy O'Sullivan that after the war, he starts going out with a railroad company and photographs the landscape as they go along. They have to take all of their camera equipment with them.
Yeah.
And so going into Yellowstone before there's roads with what collodian?
Wow.
I'm amazed by the like we sit there and complain like these cameras are so big, it's so hard. I mean,
Oh, I can't.
And they were
These guys are
transporting
amazing.
the glass plates.
Yes.
So you had to be
Yeah.
extremely careful.
and you think about it, I'm going from the east to Yellowstone to take pictures. How much glass am I going to take? Like how many pictures do I actually want to make on this trip? Like it was
Wow,
quite
that's
an investment
amazing.
of time and effort and everything else to pull these photographs off, which makes me appreciate them that much more. Typically you have just a glass negative. And then you would use albumin paper, which is an egg white, as the binder to bind the silvers to the paper. And so is collodian negative, and then an albumin print. Now, other ways around it is this, for example. This is an ambrotype, because both of these are. Now, the way this works is it is just a glass negative, but they also, kind of working on the concept of daguerreotype, is they use a bleaching process in the development. And that is for the highlights. Now this is an example of what we're going to look at. This is
Look at those
a
guys.
like basically an ambrotype glass negative. This is what was in the camera. Now the way it works is depending on what's behind it. So if it's something white behind it,
Wow.
it's a negative.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what they would do is then they would take this glass plate and put it
Ah.
So
with something
weird.
dark behind it. So velvet, a black paper, and then they would put it into a case.
Aha.
Now, another variation of this is the tintype. And what this works on basically the same concept as the ambrotype. What they do is they take It's not tin, it's typically aluminum, but it's blackened. And so the same concept as putting something black behind the glass, just a blackened piece of tin coated with the collodian. You put this in the camera and take the picture. So these are actually inverted as well. Same problem with the daguerreotype, non-reproducible. It's backwards. Billy the Kid for the longest time was thought to be left-handed. You know, the old gunslinger.
Oh, but yeah.
It's because when they look at the picture, a gunslinger is going to put his pistol by his dominant hand. So in the tintype, it's always by his left. It's on his left hip. So they thought he was left-handed without thinking through the process that it's an inverted image. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. Some observant, smart, photography, knowledgeable person looked at it, he's like, you guys are morons. This is a tintype.
Right, he was a right-handed.
This was a cool process because this kind of democratized photography even more. Because this was by far the most inexpensive process to date. They would set up little tintype studios out on the beach, shopping markets where you could go in and just very expensive you'd get a tintype. This process makes it so now more and more people are able to get a likeness created.
I am so grateful to my friend Travis for coming up and teaching us about the history of imaging. It's so easy to take for granted how amazingly simple it is to create a photograph nowadays. To look back at the time where so much effort and so much science and discovery was going into just being able to capture anything at all really makes me grateful for how easy we have it today.
The impact that our photographs that we take today are going to have on the future, like, you know, hundreds of years from now, hopefully, if the photographs really stick around that long, people will be able to know what our world was like today.
Man, these tintypes are beautiful, and we're actually in luck because we got Matt McDaniel to come up, and he has a portable way to do these tintypes, just like you were talking about. Tintypes. A photographer from Utah, Matt McDaniel, has turned his tintype process mobile for us. He's brought it up. We're going to convert one of our bathrooms into a dark room, and we're going to do one of these processes that has been around for 100 years. I'm so excited about that.
Are we gonna get to do tintypes of us? Like,
Yep. That's what we're about to do. Matt, it's so awesome to have you here today. We're going to talk about some historical processes, and you're going to teach us one. What is it?
Tintype.
All right, can you tell me a little bit about it?
It's a wet plate process, and the end result is a positive on a sheet of, used to be tin, now it's aluminum.
All right, you ready to teach us how to do some portraits of each other?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, this tintype process kind of just fell in my lap and I loved it, so I've been experimenting and refining it. So I'm gonna go show you how to do it. We'll take a couple and then I'll let you guys try it.
Woo, let's go. Let's go.
Awesome.
All right. All right, Ryan, so first thing we're gonna do, these plates, when we get them, have plastic on them. So I'm gonna hopefully take the plastic off. Do you have fingernails?
Yeah,
Can you pull that
absolutely.
off? While you're doing that, I've had the collodian in warm water so that it gets nice and fluid.
Both sides or just this one
No,
side?
just that one side.
All right.
So yeah. So this is our blackened aluminum. Basically, it's trophy metal. So if you've seen, like, you get a trophy and they have your name engraved on it.
Right.
This is what they're engraving. So I just have it cut to 4x5. So we're gonna pour the plate. This is collodian. So this gets sticky. Let's hope I don't screw it up. Pour a little bit on there. So I'll go to one corner, the other, kind of work it down, and then right back into the bottle so I'm not spilling collodian everywhere, right? So once this dries just a little bit, I'm going to move it over to the silver box, which is over here. So this box is full of silver nitrate and water. It's not light sensitive yet, but it will be when the collodian reacts with, the salts in the collodian react with the silver nitrate. So I'll leave that in there for about 3 minutes, and then we'll go shoot you.
All right. See you soon.
So this is my plate holder. I'm going to pull the plate out here and hope that these lights don't expose it. What you want is a nice milky face, which we have. Put it in here, assuming it fits. Turn these little hinges. which I can't do with that in the way. Okay, now we're good to go shoot. Let's go right back out there. We're just outside the garage today because I need sunlight to shoot tintypes, and I'm just using a reflector to bounce some sunlight right back at Ryan's face. So, it's gonna be 10 seconds, right? So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to hold really still. Pick your spot that you want.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
How do I focus?
That way. Rock it back and forth.
I can't move it.
It was moving.
Really? Do I have to unlock it first?
Yeah, one will be a lock, one
Okay.
will be a focus. Okay.
Don't frickin' move.
I'll be right here.
Bring your chin out a little bit. Now down. Like, yeah, like that. Yep.
Perfect. Oh, yes.
Okay, do you want to make
Sinister.
sure it's in focus?
Huh?
Yes.
Double check
Sinister.
focus.
And
We
get
will.
wrinkles
We're
in
gonna
your
go under
forehead.
together.
Yes, like that. Oh, wrinkles in the forehead.
Oh, come on, T.
Get it?
Let's go. Oh, you want me to do it?
Whoa,
It's perfect.
Is it in focus?
Yes.
All right, are you ready?
I'm ready. And while he's exposing, we can talk too about how this is actually going to render. So like with the collodian, where it's sensitive to blue, like if this jacket were in the shot, this blue would probably get close to this white, and this red is actually going to get very, very dark. So it'll be interesting to see how the hair, the red hair, or the blues and the reds in the shirt are rendered and how they actually come across.
That's it?
It's-
Yeah, we're
he's
just
done.
gonna go develop it, so.
Yeah.
So come on in, Ryan.
What, you did it?
Yeah, it's done.
Oh, good thing I didn't know.
Okay, tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, and open.
So
Close.
stop down the lens.
Okay, push that little guy.
This,
No.
Oh, this thing.
You're not supposed to move.
This
I
thing?
know.
Huh?
No.
Which
Okay,
thing?
that.
Yeah.
Oh, up. Sorry. I
So
went
you
down.
push it down. We'll count to 15. I'll push it up. And then it's...
Right there. Boom.
Oh.
That's awesome. Okay, let me do a little more focusy.
Do you want a loop? You can really get a sharp even though I won't hold still.
You look straight ahead.
Sorry.
Chin out. Right there.
Be gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great.
Be very professory. Like,
Okay. I got it.
This is as far away from my
Almost like he
professor
needs
as I
like
can.
this.
Does anybody have a pipe?
Where's my freaking plate?
13, 14, 15. Oh, Ryan!
There's no way.
That was awesome. And this is our picture.
Got it.
Nice.
Really hard to hold
Okay.
still.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Let's go develop that.
When
gonna
you-
be the best
How do you do that?
All right, so Matt just finished developing my plate. I'll give you a look at it here.
So cool.
Yeah, it's really, like Travis was saying, you can see that some of the colors on the shirt didn't really even show up. It's really cool.
The red hair, you can't see a difference, even a line. It just matched up with your brown hair.
Yeah.
Turn it around
But
so they
it's
can see it.
oh, it's a really cool process.
It's actually creepy.
it's really creepy.
You look like a medicine woman.
That's what she said.
Oh, I think it's awesome.
That's why you never show people that
that's
picture.
Your
so-
hair
it's-
looks pretty.
It's very. It's really neat the way it just kind of magically appears.
See,
though.
like your eyes too.
Look how
I love how
tired
white
my
your
eyes
eyes go.
look. I know, huh?
Those blue eyes just go white.
Wowzer.
It's cool. I think it's cool.
It's weird.
I think that
and
looks
cool.
amazing.
We literally got to experience how they shot pictures, 100 years ago. And my picture came out really trippy because of the blue eyes. That is really cool.
I'm wondering what, see the vertical lines that go down.
That's the
It's probably the streaks of
This-
the,
yeah.
like when he's rocking it. So no, just even the collodian when it's going on, like at thicker, thinner spots will be able to take more silver. And so you may get some irregularities just based on that.
That's wild.
very cool.
I felt like that was like the most important portrait you're ever gonna take.
I know.
You're like,
Check it.
yeah.
oh, that is rad.
That is cool.
That's rad.
yeah. best shot of the day.
I wanted to put his eyes all up at the top of the frame instead of where they should be.
So cool.
That's wild.
I love it.
That was a good exposure.
Perfect. I love it.
is-
You look very professor-y.
Masterpiece.
I hold still more than I thought.
Your lips
Yeah,
look really
yeah, you
kind
held
of sexy.
really still.
Oh, that's creepy.
I like it like that. It's like dark.
Yeah, that's creepy cool.
Yeah, you can see some of the motion blur in your eyes.
Oh, I like it.
That is funky.
We did
Oh
good,
yeah,
T.
so the
I
text
think
is
it's
flipped.
funky.
Yeah.
Really
I love it.
Cool.
It's very sinister.
It's creepy.
If we have time for
cool.
one more, we should do everyone. Crew everyone.
That's a great idea.
I'd just shoot it. Everyone will get in it.
Well, couldn't you just jump in it
You just jump. Yeah, you can.
and then jump out?
I could, yeah.
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 That would be
They'll
cool.
just be
Let's do
half
it.
of
And we got to go in and see the chemical process and just like see the picture just come to life right there on that piece of tin.
And it was just so cool to watch the process. Like when it started, the image started coming up. It was just like, I don't know, I got butterflies.
She's just like a student.
Ryan! Oh, how did you get your mouth like that? he held that the whole time. He's the only one. I'm blurring about them. Matt, we feel really honored that you would, give up your day job today to come down here and hang with us and do this for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's a pleasure for sure.
Group hug! Group hug!
Wait, where'd Travis go?
I'm being hugged.
I want to hug him too.
That was so awesome! Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's
incredible.
so cool that we can do this process that was happening how long ago, Travis?
Well, 1850s. It's a way that we can just still go back and create using this way of looking at the world.
What led to film as we know it, as we shoot it?
It was basically a portrait photographer that was trying to figure out ways to make more money. And so he actually created this camera where you could actually mount multiple lenses, like, maybe 8 lenses on one camera, and then you put in one plate and then take 8 pictures. And so you have one negative that has multiple pictures. That way he only has to make one print and you get 8 images.
Cool.
And so then he would cut them out and mount them onto cards. These became known as carte de visites. It's a calling card.
Wallet
basically.
prints.
Wallet prints. They actually start using them as trading cards, kind of like baseball cards, hence baseball card size. So photographers realized money-making opportunities. They would grab the photographic process and they would go visit cool places like Egypt, Jerusalem, all these places they always heard about, take pictures and then come back and sell them. They would use like stereo cameras, and the way these work is this is a camera with 2 lenses set up to be about the same distance apart as the human eye. And so you basically take 2 pictures at once. So then you take the plate, you print both pictures, and then you use a stereo viewer.
That is so cool.
Which, do you guys remember the little Kodak, or
Yes,
the little
the-
Disney viewers?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
What did you
great
call
grandson
those?
of this process. And then when you're looking through it, you adjust it, and when it becomes in focus, it actually gives you the illusion of 3D.
Head of cattle on a great cattle ranch near Boise, Idaho is what it
See,
says.
perfect, in Boise even.
And
Woo-woo!
here we are.
What they went to next was dry plate. We wanted to be able to go out and take pictures without having a darkroom. So it took a lot of experimentation to figure out how can we make a glass plate that will hold its sensitivity. Now there was a bank clerk in New York that became fascinated with this, so he started experimenting making dry plates. And he, after a few years, he decided to quit working at the bank, which I'm very grateful for. And he started what was known as the Eastman Dry Plate Company. So this guy's name was George Eastman. He wanted to figure out a way to make it even more convenient. So he started working on flexible film. Is there a way that instead of glass, we could use some sort of substrate that is flexible that we can maybe roll or do something else with? And also to make the cameras simpler and easier to use so that you didn't have to be a scientist to be able to pull off a photograph.
Yeah.
So these coupled together, a few years later, he started a new company called Kodak. They figured out how to get the flexible film, be able to roll it up, and they'd put them into these cameras with a long, long roll of film. You basically just buy the camera with the film already in it, kind of like, you know, a disposable camera that we used to use. You would take the pictures, and you got about 100 frames per camera. They were basically a box with just some sort of button to push. So you literally, you push the button, and Kodak took care of everything else. You really didn't have exposure control. You basically shot in daylight. That was it. His stated goal was, we have to have a camera that's so cheap and so easy to use that even a kid could use it. And the camera that resulted was the Brownie. Now this is a very, very late version of the Brownie. They were able to get the camera down to a point that it was so simple, so easy to use, and so affordable that literally photography was for everybody now. There was no restrictions that kept anybody that wanted to photograph from taking a picture.
One of the things that stood out to me was when he was talking about the Brownie camera revolution, how it put a camera in everyone's hands, and how upset the artists were by the fact that it had become available to the masses. We obviously are going through a lot of that same sentiment with digital photographers now, that everyone owns their SLR and lens, and the artists are getting mad again. It's just fascinating to see how photographic history, just like other history, has been repeating itself.
There were people that hated Kodak. They thought it was of the devil because all of a sudden it took all the art out of photography.
So it was kind of the same argument and situation like 100 years ago.
History repeats itself over and over again. Even getting more modern, this like jumps over quite a bit, but this is a Xerox transfer. So you actually just send a file to a Xerox copier, and then you transfer it to different substrates. One of the really breakthrough cameras was the Leica camera. The Leica camera uses 35mm film. This is movie stock basically. They were using the cutout, the leftovers from
The ends or something.
the ends
Yeah.
to basically then take that and put it into a camera that they could actually use. And the Leica has always been an interesting camera for me because it really revolutionized, I guess, the language of photography. But so much of photography was tripod based. It was very still, very stagnant, long exposures.
Right.
So with these cameras, we can be extremely spontaneous. We can take pictures very, very quickly. We can do it relatively inexpensive too. And we can take the camera anywhere where we want to go. Most of our typical cameras, the frame is the picture, right? When you're looking
Right.
through the viewfinder. This one, you can actually see well outside of what's going to be captured. There's lines in the viewfinder. So what this did, and the way it changes composition, is you can see what's happening outside your frame. So you can anticipate somebody walked in. You can anticipate what's going to happen. And so for street photographers that are photographing the world as it unveils itself, you actually start to see edge use of image becoming much more prominent. We get photojournalism. We start to really document the world as it's unfolding.
I, for one, know that over the next 15 weeks, I'm going to take what I learned today and I'm just going to have it right here and right here as we're going through the process of all of these different shows and the different shoots that we're going to be doing. And I'm going to just remember what those people started for us, because I really truly believe that photography is one of the greatest inventions of all times. Think about it. There's a moment captured that once that a second passes that moment, that it's like no, that will never happen again, but it's captured right there for all time, you know?
Travis, thank you so much for bringing all this and teaching us all about this. I know for me, it's been so fascinating that it's not just the history of photography, but like seeing how the world changed through these processes. For me, it adds a lot of introspection about what am I doing with photography? What you know, I have all these amazing tools at my disposal. What am I using it to capture?
As history's evolved, where do our sensitivities come from? Like, why do we think this looks good? And it's actually really interesting to look back that our language that we speak now photographically has been an evolution of this entire time.
Right.
So we actually have learned to see, because of all of this, what we think is good now is a direct result of everybody that's come before us. We can't separate ourselves from history.
True.
It is how we've learned to speak.
What I'm hoping you, the viewer, get out of this show is a sense of the wonder of photography. There's so much gear and technology and new products and that you can always upgrade to or buy, that I think we've lost a little bit of the magic. And photography is so magic. I mean, you have a little box and you take a picture and then eventually you hand someone either what they or what the situation actually looked like. I mean, when you really break it down, it's one of the last true magics. And I absolutely love that. And I want to convey some of the wonder of what you can be doing.
I don't look at what I do the same after this.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a subject I'm fascinated with, so.
Very much so. And I've never personally taken the time to learn these things, even though I was curious. So wonderful. What a blessing. Thank
This
you
calls
so
for-
much.
So this is abbreviated. We're skipping over a lot of stuff.
I know, right? I think
Get out there and learn more.
Yeah,
I think
get out
this
and learn.
calls for a group hug.
Oh,
It
yeah.
usually does.
Thank you, Travis.
You get an A+, Travis.
A+. You passed the test.
I thought I
You
gave you guys
passed.
the A+. You're very good students.
The desire of my heart with this show is that you will see yourself in us, that you'll know that you are not alone in your journey and in your desires and in your dreams. It's okay to be a dreamer. It's okay to be silly and goofy and amazing and emotional and a believer.
What I really hope that you guys will take from this is be inspired a little bit to shoot for yourself and shoot things that you love. Whether you choose film or you choose digital, that doesn't matter. Just really create from your heart and pour your soul into it.
I'm so excited to have the opportunity to be a part of a show all about film. It's something I'm passionate about. I know Tanja and Tia are as well. I hope we'll be able to share that with you in a way that'll inspire you to want to give it a shot or to keep on shooting it. We have 15 weeks ahead of us to learn more and make some amazing images.
All film was provided by Fujifilm. And a special thanks to Richard Photolab for processing all images in this episode. Like the music? Special thanks to Triple Scoop Music. Frame Network giveaways are brought to you by B&H. Head to giveaways.framenetwork.com for your chance to win. Find out more about the equipment used in this episode on framenetwork.com.